I heard the water before I saw it. That strange, rushing sound that makes your stomach drop because you know it's coming from somewhere it shouldn't be. I'd just gotten home from work on a Wednesday evening, still in my pencil skirt and blouse, my work bag heavy on my shoulder. The moment I opened my front door, I heard it. Water. Lots of water. Running somewhere in my house. My house. My first house. The 3-bedroom ranch I'd saved 6 years to buy. I dropped my bag and ran toward the sound. The basement. I threw open the basement door and froze at the top of the stairs. My brother Derek stood ankle-deep in water, holding my garden hose. Water gushed from the end, flooding my newly finished basement. Our eyes met. He dropped the hose. It writhed on the concrete floor like a snake, spraying water everywhere. He tried to run past me up the stairs. I blocked the doorway, my phone already out, already recording. He froze halfway up the steps. His jeans were soaked. Water dripped from his hands. "What are you doing?" My voice came out calmer than I felt. He stammered, opened his mouth, closed it. Water kept rushing behind him, pooling around the boxes I'd stored down there, around the furniture I'd just bought. "Mom sent me," he finally said. "She told me to check on something." The water kept rising. I stood there at the top of the basement stairs, phone still recording, watching my brother's face cycle through panic and guilt, and finally something that looked like defiance. The water swirled around his ankles, creeping higher with every second that passed. "Turn it off," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. "Turn off the water right now, Derek." He went back down the steps, grabbed the hose, and twisted the nozzle shut. The rush of water stopped, but the damage was done. The basement floor was covered in at least 3 inches of standing water. I could see the dark stains spreading up the sides of my cardboard boxes, the boxes with my photo albums, my college textbooks, everything I'd stored down there just last month after moving in. "Araceli, I can explain," Derek said, but I held up my hand. "Get out of my house. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you broke into my house and deliberately flooded my basement. That's exactly what my video shows. So, unless you have a better explanation, get out." He climbed the stairs, water squelching in his shoes with each step. When he reached the top, he stood too close to me, trying to use his height to intimidate me the way he'd done when we were kids. But I wasn't a kid anymore. I was 32 years old, and this was my house. "You brought this on yourself," he muttered, pushing past me. I followed him to the front door. "What did you say?" He turned back, his face flushed. "You heard me. Mom needed that money. We all needed that money. But you had to go and buy this house instead. This is my money. I saved for 6 years. Family comes first, Araceli. Or it should." He walked out, slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a long moment, trying to process what had just happened. Then I went back to the basement to survey the damage. The water had reached the bottom step. My storage boxes were destroyed. I'd bought a beautiful vintage armchair at an estate sale 2 weeks ago, planning to reupholster it. The water had soaked into the cushion, turning the faded floral fabric dark and heavy. A bookshelf I'd assembled just last weekend was already warping at the base. I called my insurance company first. Then I started taking photos and videos of everything, documenting each ruined item. The customer service representative told me an adjuster would come out within 3 business days. In the meantime, I needed to start cleanup to prevent mold. It was close to 9 at night when I finally got the wet vacuum from my garage and started sucking up water. My feet were cold and wet. My work clothes were ruined, and I couldn't stop thinking about what Derek had said. 3 months earlier, I'd closed on this house. It was a Tuesday afternoon in February, and I'd sat in the title company office signing paper after paper, my hand cramping, my heart soaring. The house wasn't big or fancy. It was a modest 1,500 square foot ranch in a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, Ohio. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a decent-sized backyard. The kitchen was outdated, and the carpet needed replacing, but it was mine, all mine. I'd worked overtime for 6 years. I was an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown, and I'd taken every extra client, every tax season shift, every opportunity to pad my savings. I lived in a tiny studio apartment with furniture from thrift stores. I packed my lunch every single day. I drove a 12-year-old sedan. And finally, I had enough for a down payment. The day after closing, I called my mother to share my excitement. Patricia answered on the third ring. "Hi, Mom. I have good news." "What is it?" Her voice was distracted. I could hear the television in the background. "I bought a house. I closed yesterday. I'm officially a homeowner." Silence. Then, "You what?" "I bought a house. Remember I told you I was looking? The inspection went well, and the sellers accepted my offer. And now it's mine." More silence. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. "It's a shame you bought this house, Araceli. We needed that money for the wedding." My excitement deflated like a popped balloon. "What wedding?" "Your brother's wedding. Derek and Amanda are getting married in November. We're planning something beautiful, something memorable, and we expected you to contribute." I sat down on my new front steps, looking at my new front door. "Mom, I never agreed to that. I've been saving for a house." "How much was the down payment?" "That's not really your business." "How much, Araceli?" $30,000. She made a sound like I'd slapped her. 30,000. That's exactly what we need for the wedding. The venue alone is 15,000. Then there's catering, flowers, the photographer, the band. "Mom, this is my money. I worked for 6 years to save it. And your brother is getting married once. This is a special occasion. Family comes first. Or have you forgotten that?" "I haven't forgotten anything. But I never promised to pay for Derek's wedding." "You're being selfish. You're being ungrateful. After everything your father and I did for you, this is how you repay us? By buying some house when your family needs you?" The conversation spiraled from there. She called me cold. She called me self-centered. She said I'd always put myself first, even as a child. She brought up every perceived slight from the last 30 years, twisting my memories into evidence of my terrible character. My father, Frank, was there. I could hear him in the background, but he never took the phone. He never said a word in my defense. When I finally hung up, I sat on those front steps and cried. But I didn't regret buying the house. This was mine. I'd earned it. 2 days later, Derek called. His voice was friendlier than Mom's had been, almost apologetic. "Hey, Araceli. Congratulations on the house." "Thanks," I said, cautious. "Listen, I know Mom came on a little strong. You know how she gets about family events." "Yeah, but here's the thing. Amanda's parents are contributing $15,000 to the wedding. My savings are basically wiped out from the engagement ring and the honeymoon deposit. And Mom promised she'd cover a lot of it, but now she's saying she doesn't have as much as she thought. Derek, I have a mortgage now. I can't help. I'm not asking for the full 30, just, 20,000? You could take out a home equity loan or something. I'd pay you back over time. I'm not taking out a loan to pay for your wedding." His friendly tone evaporated. "Wow. Okay. Good to know where your priorities are." "My priorities are keeping my house." "Whatever, Araceli. Don't come crying to me when you need something someday." He hung up. After that, family dinners became unbearable. Mom would make pointed comments about people who abandon their families. Derek wouldn't look at me. Dad ate in silence, eyes on his plate. Aunt Susan tried to mediate, but even she seemed disappointed in me. I stopped going to Sunday dinners after a month. It was easier than sitting through the guilt trips and cold shoulders. Now, standing in my flooded basement at nearly 10 at night, I understood that they hadn't let it go. They'd just been planning their next move. When the wet vacuum was full for the 3rd time, I took a break and checked my security cameras. I'd installed them 2 weeks ago after noticing some things around the house seemed off. A window screen loose when I knew I'd secured it. The back gate left open when I always locked it. Nothing major, but enough to make me uneasy. I pulled up the footage from the last 2 weeks and started scrolling through. That's when I found it. Derek had been here before, multiple times. I watched as he appeared on camera from 2 weeks ago, climbing through a basement window. He was inside for 20 minutes. Then he left, carefully closing the window behind him. 3 days later, he was back. Same window, 30 minutes inside. I checked more footage. He'd been in my house 6 times in the last 2 weeks. While I was at work, he'd been breaking in through that basement window, the one hidden behind the shrubs that I hadn't thought to secure. I scrolled to yesterday's footage. He'd been here then too. I watched him walk through my basement, picking up items and examining them. He picked up a small jewelry box I'd left on a shelf and slipped it into his pocket. Later in the footage, I saw him deliberately scratch the side of my washing machine with something metal. This wasn't just about today's flooding. This was a campaign, a systematic effort to damage my property and make my life miserable. I felt sick. This was my brother. My younger brother who I'd helped with his homework in high school, who I'd driven to baseball practice when Mom was too busy, who I'd lent money to more times than I could count, money he'd never paid back. And now he was breaking into my house and destroying it. I saved all the footage to my cloud storage. Then I called the police non-emergency line and filed a report. The officer who took my information said someone would follow up within a few days. He suggested I change my locks and secure all my windows. It was past midnight when I finally went to bed. I didn't sleep. Every sound in the house made me jump. I kept thinking about Derek standing in my basement with that hose, water pouring out, his face caught between guilt and something darker. Family was supposed to protect you. Family was supposed to celebrate your successes, not sabotage them. But my family wanted my house gone, and they were willing to destroy it, and me, to get what they wanted. Thursday morning came too soon. I'd barely slept, and I had to be at work by 8:30. I made coffee with shaking hands and got dressed in the only clean work outfit I had left. Everything else was in a hamper in the basement, probably mildewed by now. The insurance adjuster arrived at 7. His name was Gary, a middle-aged man with a clipboard and a tired expression. I showed him the basement, explained what happened, showed him the video. He watched it twice, his face neutral. Then he walked around the basement, taking photos and notes. He examined the water line on the walls, poked at the damaged boxes, tested the dampness of the carpet I'd had installed just 3 weeks ago. "So your brother did this," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. That's him on the video. And he has access to your house?" "No. He broke in through that window." I pointed to the basement window, still slightly open. Gary walked over and examined it. No signs of forced entry. The frame isn't damaged. He's been here multiple times. I have security footage showing him climbing through it. Gary made a note. "Here's the problem, Mrs. Miss Rodriguez. When damage is caused by a family member, especially when there's no clear forced entry, it gets complicated. Insurance is designed to cover accidents and external threats, not internal family disputes." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your claim might be denied. You'd need to pursue this through civil court against your brother. Sue him for the damages. He caused $15,000 in damage to my property." "I understand. But our policy has specific exclusions for intentional acts by household members or relatives with access to the property. He doesn't live here. He doesn't have access. He broke in through an unsecured window. It was secured before he pried it open." Gary sighed. "Look, I'll submit the report. But I'm telling you, this is going to be reviewed carefully. The fact that it's your brother, that there's obviously some family conflict here, that's going to raise flags. The company might decide this is a civil matter between family members, not an insurance issue. How long will the review take? 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. I had a moldy, damaged basement and potentially no insurance money to fix it. I thanked Gary and showed him out, then called my supervisor to let her know I'd be late. At work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept checking my phone. expecting another disaster. I'd been at Miller and Associates Accounting for 4 years, working my way up from junior accountant to a decent mid-level position. My supervisor, Janet, was usually understanding, but I'd already used most of my PTO this year for the house purchase and moving. Around noon, I stepped outside and called my mother. She answered immediately. Araceli. Derek destroyed my basement. He broke in and flooded it with a hose. I have video evidence, and I'm pressing charges. That's ridiculous. Derek would never do that. I literally have him on video, Mom. Standing in my basement, holding the hose, water pouring everywhere. There must be some explanation. Maybe your basement was already flooding, and he was trying to help. Are you serious right now? Don't take that tone with me. You're making up stories because you feel guilty about not helping with the wedding. This is your way of avoiding your family responsibilities. He caused $15,000 in damage. $15,000? That's convenient. That's exactly how much the wedding needs. Her voice was sharp with sarcasm. I'm not making this up. Do you want to see the video? I don't need to see any video. I know my son, and I know he wouldn't do this. You, on the other hand, have always been dramatic, always playing the victim. The line went dead. She'd hung up on me. I stood outside my office building, phone in my hand, trying not to cry. A few coworkers walked past, glancing at me curiously. I pulled myself together and went back inside. The afternoon dragged. I made mistakes on a client's tax return and had to redo it. Janet called me into her office at 4. Is everything okay, Araceli? You seem distracted. I'm dealing with some family issues. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. You've taken a lot of time off lately. I understand the house purchase was a big life change, but I need to make sure you're still committed to your work here. I am. Absolutely. Your performance review is coming up next month. I just want to make sure you're on track. It was a gentle warning, but a warning nonetheless. I assured her I'd refocus, then went back to my desk and tried to salvage the rest of the day. That evening, my phone rang as I was driving home. Amanda, Derek's fiancée. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Hello? Araceli? It's Amanda. Please don't hang up. What do you want? I just heard about what happened yesterday. Derek told me about the basement. Did he tell you he deliberately flooded it? That he's been breaking into my house for weeks? She was crying. I could hear it in her voice. He said there was a misunderstanding, that you misinterpreted what he was doing. Amanda, I have video. Clear video. He was holding the hose. The water was gushing out. There's no misinterpretation. I don't know what to believe. Your mom is saying you're making it up, but Derek has been so stressed lately and I don't know. Why are you calling me? Because the wedding is falling apart. Your mom promised she'd pay for most of it, but now she's saying she can't afford it. My parents are contributing $15,000, but that's not enough for everything we planned. The venue alone is $15,000. We need the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Derek is panicking. He's barely sleeping. He's not himself. I felt a small stab of sympathy, quickly followed by anger. And you think I should give you money? I'm not asking for $30,000. I'm not even asking for $20,000. But if you could just lend us $10,000, it would save the wedding. We'd pay you back over time, I promise. Amanda, Derek broke into my house and caused $15,000 in damage. My insurance might not cover it. I'm paying for repairs out of pocket. I have a mortgage now. I don't have $10,000 to spare. Please, this wedding means everything to us. Then Derek shouldn't have destroyed my property. She was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, I'm sorry this is happening. I really am. Me too. She hung up. I got home just after 6. The house felt different now. Violated. I did a full walkthrough, checking every window, every door. I called a locksmith and scheduled an appointment for Saturday to change all the locks. I ordered window security bars online for overnight delivery. I heated up leftovers for dinner but couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. I kept thinking about Derek's face when I caught him. that defiant look. You brought this on yourself. What else would he do? Around 9, I went down to the basement to continue the cleanup. The water was mostly gone, but everything was damp and smelled like mildew. I started hauling ruined boxes up the stairs, piling them in the garage for trash pickup. That's when I noticed the muddy footprints. They were old, mostly dry now, but clearly visible on the concrete floor near the far corner of the basement. The corner where my utility room was. I hadn't been back there yet. I'd focused on the main area where the flooding was worst. I walked over, my heart pounding. The utility room door was ajar. I pushed it open and flicked on the light. Someone had been in here, recently. The floor was cleaner than it should be, like someone had wiped it down. I checked the water heater, the furnace, the electrical panel. Everything looked normal. Then I noticed the sump pump. The cover was slightly askew. I lifted it and looked inside. Someone had stuffed rags into the pump mechanism. If the sump pit filled with water during the next rain, the pump wouldn't work. The basement would flood naturally, and it would look like equipment failure, not sabotage. I pulled out the rags and examined them. They were old washcloths, the kind you could buy at any dollar store. Untraceable. Derek had been planning this for a while. The flooding yesterday was just his most blatant attack. He'd been setting up other failures, other disasters, to make my life miserable. I went upstairs and pulled up my security footage again, going back further this time. 2.5 weeks ago, there he was, climbing through the basement window. I watched him go straight to the utility room. He was in there for 10 minutes. I checked the next visit. Same thing, utility room. On the third visit, he'd moved around more, taking small items, scratching my appliances. But he always checked the utility room. I felt cold. This wasn't just anger or revenge. This was calculated. He was systematically trying to destroy my house, to make me so miserable I'd give up and sell. I needed to file for a restraining order. Late that night, I heard sounds outside. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the security camera app. My heart nearly stopped. Someone was in my backyard. A figure in dark clothes, moving near my air conditioning unit. I dialed 911. 911. What's your emergency? Someone is in my backyard. I'm watching them on my security camera. They're tampering with my air conditioner. Are you in a safe location? I'm inside my house. All doors are locked. Stay inside. Officers are on the way. I watched the camera feed, phone pressed to my ear. The figure was definitely messing with the AC unit. They had tools. After about 5 minutes, they left, disappearing over my back fence. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers. I showed them the camera footage, explained the situation with my brother. We went outside with flashlights. The copper wiring had been stripped from my AC unit, completely gone. The unit was gutted. This is common theft, one officer said. People steal copper and sell it for scrap. But given your situation with your brother, this might be related. Can you tell who it was from the camera? Too dark. Can't see the face clearly. The person was wearing a hood and gloves. What do I do? File a report. Get an estimate for repairs. If you can prove your brother was involved, you can press charges. But without clear identification, it's hard to prosecute. They took my statement and left. I stood in my backyard, looking at my destroyed air conditioner, and felt completely defeated. It was late May. The weather was getting warmer. I needed AC. A repair company wouldn't come out until Monday at the earliest. The estimate would probably be $3,000 or more. I went back inside, locked everything, and set my security cameras to send me instant alerts for any motion. I didn't sleep that night either. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. I paid out of pocket for emergency repairs, basement restoration, new carpet, AC repair, $7,000 total. My savings account, which I'd carefully rebuilt after the down payment, was nearly empty again. My insurance company sent me a letter. They were denying my claim. The reason cited, intentional damage by a family member with access to the property, was not covered under my homeowner's policy. They recommended I pursue civil litigation. I made an appointment with the courthouse to file for a restraining order. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Meanwhile, I barely functioned. At work, I made more mistakes. Janet pulled me aside again, her concern tinged with frustration. Araceli, I need you here mentally. If you're dealing with personal issues, maybe you should consider taking a leave of absence. I can't afford to take unpaid leave right now. Then I need to see improvement. This isn't working. I promised to do better, but I was so exhausted I could barely think straight. I wasn't sleeping. I was constantly checking my security cameras. Every sound in my house made me jump. On Saturday, my entire family showed up at my door. All of them. Mom, Dad, Derek, Amanda, Aunt Susan, and Uncle George. I saw them through the window and considered not answering, but they'd already seen me. Mom was pounding on the door. I opened it. "What do you want?" "We need to talk," Mom said. "This family is falling apart, and it needs to stop." "I agree. Tell Derek to stop breaking into my house." "Can we come in?" "We're not having this conversation on your porch where the neighbors can hear." Against every instinct, I let them in. They filed into my living room, taking up every seat, making my space feel small and suffocating. Mom took charge immediately, sitting in my favorite armchair like she owned it. "This family division needs to end. We've always been close, and I won't let anything destroy that." I stood by the doorway, arms crossed. "Derek destroyed my basement. He's been breaking in for weeks. I have video evidence." "Show us," Uncle George said. "If you have proof, show us." I grabbed my laptop, pulled up the video, and played it on my TV. The whole room watched in silence as Derek stood in my flooded basement, hose in hand, water pouring out. When it ended, nobody spoke. Then Mom said, "That doesn't show what you think it shows." "Are you kidding me?" "Derek, explain what you were doing." Derek, who'd been staring at his hands, looked up. His face was flushed, but his voice was steady. "I was trying to help. Your basement had a leak, Araceli. I came over to check on it because Mom was worried about you. The hose was already running when I got there. I picked it up to turn it off, and that's when you came home. I panicked because I knew how it would look. It was such an obvious lie that I almost laughed. The hose slipped? You panicked? I made a mistake. I should have explained right away. But you started recording me, accusing me, and I reacted badly. What about all the other times you broke in? What about the jewelry you stole? The appliances you damaged? I never broke in. Mom gave me a key months ago. She wanted me to check on the house while you were at work, make sure everything was okay. You just moved in. She was worried about you being alone." I looked at Mom. "You gave him a key to my house?" "I had a spare from when you first moved in. You gave it to me, remember? In case of emergencies?" I had given her a spare key, one key, for emergencies, and she'd given it to Derek? "And the jewelry?" I said. "The security footage shows him taking things." Derek shrugged. "I never took anything. If something is missing, maybe you misplaced it. You've been stressed." It was maddening. He was rewriting everything, making me doubt my own memories and evidence. Amanda spoke up, her voice small. "Maybe there's been a misunderstanding on both sides. Maybe everyone made mistakes." "There's no misunderstanding," I said. "Derek has been sabotaging my house for weeks. The flooding was just his most obvious attack." Mom stood up, her face hardening. "You've always been this way, Araceli. Always dramatic. Always playing the victim." "Excuse me? Ever since you were a child, something doesn't go your way, and suddenly everyone is against you. You're paranoid. You see attacks where there are none. I have video evidence. You have a video of your brother trying to help, and you've twisted it into this elaborate conspiracy theory. Honestly, I'm worried about you, about your mental state." I felt like I'd been punched. She was gaslighting me in front of the entire family. "Aunt Susan, you see what's happening here, right?" Aunt Susan, who'd always been kind to me, looked uncomfortable. I think maybe everyone needs to calm down and listen to each other. Uncle George? He shook his head. Families fight, Araceli. But you don't file restraining orders. You don't call the police on your own brother. That's not how we handle things. I looked at my father. He'd been silent through all of this, staring at his hands the way he always did when Mom took over. Dad? You're not going to say anything? He glanced up at me, then at Mom, then back at his hands. Your mother is right. Family comes first. That was it. That was all I got from him. Mom stepped forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop this restraining order nonsense. You're going to contribute $15,000 to your brother's wedding. And we're all going to move past this. And if I don't, then you're not part of this family anymore. The ultimatum hung in the air. I looked at each of them. Mom, righteous and unyielding. Derek, playing innocent. Amanda, crying quietly. Aunt Susan and Uncle George, uncomfortable but ultimately siding with Mom. And Dad, silent and useless. Get out of my house. Mom's face twisted. You're making a big mistake. Get out. Derek stood. You're going to regret this. I already regret letting you in. Now leave. They filed out slowly. Aunt Susan touched my arm as she passed. Please reconsider, she whispered. When they were all gone except Dad, he paused at the door. Araceli. What, Dad? Your mother won't let this go. She's planning something. I don't know what, but I know her. She's not done. Then stop her. He shook his head. I can't. She'd make my life miserable. I'm sorry. He left, just like that. He knew Mom was planning to hurt me, and he was choosing to do nothing. I closed the door, locked it, and slid down to the floor. For a moment, I just sat there, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Rodriguez? This is Kevin Chen from County Zoning. We received a complaint about your property. We need to schedule an inspection. What kind of complaint? Anonymous tip that you're running an illegal business from your residence. Home-based businesses require proper permits and zoning approval. The inspection is mandatory. I don't run any business from my home. I'm an accountant, but I work at an office downtown. We still need to inspect. Are you available next Wednesday at 10? I scheduled it, hung up, and felt a new wave of despair. They were escalating. This was harassment through official channels now. That evening, I got a notification from my bank. Someone had tried to access my savings account online. Multiple failed login attempts from an IP address I didn't recognize. The bank had frozen my account temporarily for security. I called the fraud department and spent an hour verifying my identity and securing my account. They suggested I come into the branch Monday to review my account activity and security settings. Then I checked my credit card statement. There were charges I didn't recognize. Small charges, under $20 each, to various wedding vendors, a florist in Cleveland, a bakery in Akron, a party rental company. Someone had my credit card information. I canceled the card immediately and filed fraud claims for each charge, but the damage was done. I'd have to wait for a new card. In the meantime, my mortgage auto payment was scheduled to come out of my checking account next week, and my checking account was linked to the now frozen savings account. I transferred money around online, making sure the mortgage payment would clear. But I was running out of funds fast. Then I remembered. 2 months ago, I'd had Sunday dinner at my parents' house. I'd left my purse in Mom's bedroom for a few minutes while I used the bathroom. When I came back, Mom was just leaving the bedroom, claiming she'd been getting a sweater from her closet. She'd had access to my purse, to my wallet, to all my cards and my driver's license. She could have photographed everything. I sat on my couch, laptop open, credit card fraud report in progress, and realized the full scope of what was happening. This wasn't just Derek acting alone. This was Mom orchestrating everything. Derek was her tool, her weapon, and she was coming at me from every direction. My property, my finances, my job, my reputation. She was trying to destroy my entire life. Monday morning, I went to the bank before work. The branch manager, a patient woman named Carol, helped me review my accounts. The failed login attempts had come from somewhere in Cleveland, but the exact location couldn't be determined. I recommend changing all your passwords and enabling two-factor authentication on everything, Carol said. I did that right there in her office. New passwords for every account. Extra security measures on everything. One more thing, she said. You might want to freeze your credit. If someone has your personal information, they could try to open accounts in your name. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. It took another hour. By the time I got to work, it was nearly 11. Janet was not happy. This is becoming a pattern, Araceli. I know. I'm sorry. I had a banking emergency. You've been having a lot of emergencies lately. I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell her everything, but it sounded insane. My family is trying to destroy my life. My mother gave my brother a key to my house. They're sabotaging my property and stealing my identity. So I just said, it won't happen again. But it did happen again. Because that afternoon, HR called me. I walked into the HR office with my stomach in knots. The director, a stern man named Paul, sat behind his desk with a folder in front of him. Miss Rodriguez, we received a concerning email this morning. An anonymous email with some serious allegations. What kind of allegations? He opened the folder and turned his computer monitor so I could see. There was an email from a generic Gmail account with a fake name. The email claimed I'd been stealing from clients. It included screenshots of bank transactions that supposedly showed me transferring money from client accounts to my personal accounts. This is fake, I said immediately. I've never stolen anything from anyone. We have to investigate all allegations. The screenshots look legitimate. I leaned forward and examined them. They were doctored. The account numbers were wrong. The dates didn't match anything I'd worked on. But they were convincing if you didn't look closely. These are fabricated. Look at the account numbers. Those aren't even formatted correctly for our bank. Paul studied them more carefully. You're right. The formatting is off. Someone is trying to sabotage me. I know who it is, and I can explain everything. I told him. About my family. About the house. About the campaign of harassment. It sounded insane, even to my own ears. Paul listened, his expression neutral. When I finished, he said, I believe you that these screenshots are fake, but the fact that someone is targeting you like this is concerning. It creates a distraction. It affects your work. So, what do you want me to do? I need to investigate this fully. That means you'll be on administrative leave, unpaid, while we verify everything and clear your name. How long will that take? A week? Maybe 2. I can't afford 2 weeks without pay. I have a mortgage. I understand. But I have to follow protocol. I left the HR office in a daze. Administrative leave. Unpaid. Because someone, almost certainly my mother, had sent a fake email to destroy my career. I packed up my desk and left. Janet didn't even look at me as I walked past her office. At home, I called a lawyer. The consultation fee was $200. The lawyer, a woman named Sarah Chen, listened to my story and gave me the bad news. You need to file for a restraining order, which you're already doing. You need to sue your brother for damages, which could take months or years. And you need to report the identity theft to the police, which you've already done. Beyond that, there's not much you can do unless you catch them in the act of something. What about the forged loan documents? I'd mentioned those to her. You said your mother has a lawsuit claiming you owe them money? They're planning one. They sent me a demand letter. When's the court date? 2 months from now. We can fight that. Hire a handwriting expert to prove the signatures are forged. But that's another expense. I couldn't afford any of this. The legal fees alone would bankrupt me. I thanked Sarah and hung up, then sat on my couch and stared at the wall. My house felt like a prison. Every room held memories of my family's attacks. The basement they'd flooded. The AC unit they'd destroyed. The windows they'd pried open. I'd worked so hard for this house. 6 years of saving and sacrifice. And now it was being used as a weapon against me. That night, someone egged my house. I woke up to the sound of something splattering against my siding. By the time I got outside, the car was gone. Eggs were dripping down my front windows, my door, my mailbox. The police came, took a report, said they'd patrol my street more often, but they couldn't do anything without catching the vandals in the act. I cleaned up the eggs at 2 a.m, crying in my driveway, wondering how my life had fallen apart so quickly. Wednesday, the county inspector arrived. He was thorough, examining every room, asking about my work, looking for any signs of a home business. I work downtown, I told him. I'm an accountant. I don't work from home. He checked anyway. He looked in my spare bedroom where I had a small desk and a laptop. You do any work here? Sometimes I check emails or pay personal bills. No client work? Never. He made notes, looked around more, then said he'd submit his report. The complaint was baseless. You're clear. Can you tell me who filed the complaint? It came through the commissioner's office. Someone called in anonymously. After he left, I realized Mom must have connections in local government. Maybe she'd called in a favor. Or maybe she'd just lied convincingly enough to get an inspector sent to my house. Either way, it was another attack. Another attempt to make my life unbearable. The restraining order hearing was set for Friday. I gathered all my evidence. Videos, photos, financial records, timelines. I practiced what I'd say. But Derek showed up with a lawyer. An expensive one in a tailored suit. My mother had obviously paid for it. The lawyer argued that I was fabricating evidence, that the videos were taken out of context, that Derek had been trying to help me, and I'd misinterpreted everything through the lens of a family dispute over money. Your Honor, Miss Rodriguez is clearly experiencing stress related to her new mortgage and financial obligations. She's projecting that stress onto her family, accusing them of elaborate schemes when in reality, her brother was simply trying to be helpful. I represented myself because I couldn't afford an attorney. I showed my evidence. I explained the pattern of attacks. I showed the security footage of Derek breaking in multiple times. But Derek testified that he had a key from my mother, that he'd been checking on the house with my mother's permission, as a favor to the family. The judge seemed sympathetic to me but cautious. Mr. Morrison, do you have that key with you? Derek pulled out a key. Right here, Your Honor. The judge examined it, then looked at me. Miss Rodriguez, did you give your mother a key to your home? I gave her one emergency key. I didn't give her permission to duplicate it or give it to my brother. But you did give her a key. One key. For emergencies. The judge considered. I'm granting a temporary restraining order for 30 days. During that time, Mr. Morrison, you are to stay away from Miss Rodriguez's property. No contact. No communication. He looked at both of us. I'm also ordering both parties to attend family mediation. If you want a permanent restraining order, Miss Rodriguez, you'll need to demonstrate ongoing threat after this 30-day period. It was something, but not enough. Derek was ordered to stay away, but only for a month, and we had to go to mediation, where I'd have to sit in a room with him and my parents and pretend we could work this out. After the hearing, my mother cornered me in the parking lot. You've humiliated this family. Derek's wedding is in 2 months. Amanda's parents are threatening to pull their contribution because of all this drama. If that wedding is ruined, it's on you. Mom, Derek destroyed my property. He broke into my house repeatedly. He was helping you. You're too paranoid to see it. Why would he flood my basement to help me? Accidents happen. You're blowing this out of proportion. I showed the judge video evidence. Video can be misleading. Context matters. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. If you ruin your brother's wedding, you will be dead to this family. Every single person. We will all cut you off. Is that what you want? To be completely alone? I looked at her, this woman who raised me, and saw nothing but cold calculation in her eyes. "I want you to leave me alone. That's not how family works." She walked away. I got in my car and just sat there, shaking. The restraining order was temporary. The hearing had changed nothing. They were still coming after me. And now I was on unpaid leave, burning through what little money I had left. That evening I got the certified letter. A law firm representing Frank and Patricia Rodriguez was suing me for $75,000. They claimed I'd borrowed $50,000 from them years ago for college tuition and living expenses. With interest and late fees, the total was now $75,000. Attached were loan documents. They looked official. They had my signature, their signatures, dates from 10 years ago. But I'd never borrowed money from them. I'd gone to state school on scholarships and worked 2 jobs to cover my living expenses. I'd graduated debt-free. These documents were forged. I examined the signatures closely. Mine looked very close to how I signed things. But there were small differences. The way I looped my lowercase a, the angle of my r. Small things, but enough to prove it wasn't actually my signature. But proving that in court would require a handwriting expert, which would cost money I didn't have. The court date was set for late July, 2 months away. If they won, they could put a lien on my house, force me to sell it to pay the fake debt, and then, no doubt, pressure me to give them the proceeds. I finally understood the full scope of my mother's plan. She was attacking me from every angle. My property, my job, my finances, my reputation, my legal standing. She was systematically destroying everything I'd built, piece by piece, and I was running out of money to fight her. That night, I calculated my finances. Between the repairs, the legal fees, the unpaid leave, I'd spent nearly $20,000 in 6 weeks. My emergency fund was gone. I had about $3,000 left in savings. My mortgage payment was $800 a month. I had the high-interest personal loan for the sewer repair, $350 a month. I had maybe 2 months before I couldn't pay my bills. I sat at my kitchen table and seriously considered giving up. Selling the house, moving somewhere far away, cutting off all contact with my family, and starting over. But this was my house. I'd earned it, and they didn't deserve to win. So I started looking for a second job. Something part-time in the evenings or on weekends. Anything to keep me afloat while I fought this battle. I found a job posting for weekend work at a retail store. I applied immediately. Then someone kicked in my front door. I heard the crash from the kitchen, wood splintering, the door slamming open. I grabbed my phone and ran to my bedroom, locking the door. I dialed 911. Someone just broke into my house. I'm hiding in my bedroom. Stay where you are. Officers are en route. I could hear footsteps downstairs. Multiple people. They were ransacking my house, breaking things. I could hear glass shattering, furniture being overturned. Then I heard spray paint, the distinct hiss of an aerosol can. It took the police 12 minutes to arrive. By then, the intruders were gone. I came out of my bedroom to find my house destroyed. The TV was smashed. My laptop was gone. My few pieces of jewelry were gone. But worse than the theft was the vandalism. Someone had spray-painted messages on my walls. "You could have prevented this. Family first. Selfish sister." The police took statements. A neighbor's security camera had caught a truck that looked like Derek's, but the license plate wasn't visible. The responding officer recognized my address. "Miss Rodriguez, this is the 5th call we've had from your residence in 6 weeks. I know, this looks personal. Not a random burglary. It's my brother, or someone he hired. Can you prove it? The restraining order was just granted today. He was at his bachelor party weekend with witnesses, so he has an alibi. But I know he's behind this." The officer took photos of everything, but I could see in his eyes he didn't think they'd catch whoever did this. The insurance adjuster came the next day. More damage. Another $8,000. But with my claim history, and the fact that this was clearly personal, my insurance company was going to drop me. My rates would skyrocket, even if I found another company willing to cover me. I sat in my destroyed living room and couldn't hold it together anymore. I broke down completely. Sitting on my couch surrounded by shattered glass and spray-painted threats, I cried until I had nothing left. I'd lost my savings. My job was in jeopardy. My home was being systematically destroyed. My family had turned into my enemies, and I couldn't see a way out. For the first time, I seriously thought about just giving up, selling the house at a loss, giving my mother whatever she wanted, moving far away and never speaking to any of them again. Maybe that's what she wanted. Maybe she'd won. I looked at my destroyed home. My dream turned into a nightmare and felt utterly defeated. The next 2 weeks were the darkest of my life. I maxed out my remaining credit card to pay for a handwriting expert who confirmed the loan documents were forged. His court testimony would cost $3,000 that I didn't have. I hired a civil attorney, Sarah, for $5,000 down. I had to take out another personal loan just to cover the legal fees. My savings were completely gone. Every penny I'd saved over 6 years, depleted in 2 months. The HR investigation at work took 3 weeks instead of 1. They finally cleared me of all charges, admitting the evidence was fabricated. But when I returned to work, everything had changed. Janet was cold and distant. My colleagues whispered when I walked by. Someone had started a rumor that maybe there was some truth to the allegations. I kept my head down and did my work, but the hostile environment was crushing. Every day felt like walking through quicksand. I started applying for other jobs, but accounting positions didn't open up that often, and I needed to stay employed while I paid my mortgage. 3 weeks before Derek's wedding, Amanda called me again. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "The wedding is falling apart. Your mom only contributed $10,000 instead of the $30,000 she promised. My parents are pulling their $15,000 because they say your family is too unstable. We don't have enough for the venue or the catering. Derek is having panic attacks. We might have to cancel everything." Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy. Amanda hadn't asked for this chaos. But then I remembered she'd known Derek was destroying my house, and she'd said nothing. "Amanda, I can't help you. I'm not asking for money anymore. I don't know what to do. Derek has changed. He's angry all the time. He blames you for everything. Your mom has him convinced that you're the villain in all of this." "I'm the villain? He destroyed my house." I know he did. I see it now, but he won't admit it. He's in so deep with your mom's version of reality that he can't see the truth anymore." "Then don't marry him, Amanda." She was quiet for a long moment. "I love him, or I love who he used to be. People don't change back, not when they've gone this far." She hung up without saying goodbye. The court-ordered family mediation happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I took time off work, another black mark with Janet. The mediator was a calm woman named Dr. Chen. She met with me first, then with my parents and Derek, then brought us all together. My mother put on an Oscar-worthy performance. She cried. She talked about how much she loved her children, how heartbroken she was by this family division, how she just wanted everyone to be happy and together. "I made mistakes," she said, dabbing at her eyes. "I put too much pressure on Araceli to help with the wedding. I should have been more understanding about her financial situation. But I never imagined it would come to this. Police reports, restraining orders. It's tearing our family apart." Derek apologized. "I made one mistake, and Araceli has blown it completely out of proportion. I went to her house to check on a leak that Mom told me about. I was trying to help, and now I'm being treated like a criminal." My father said nothing, as usual. Dr. Chen turned to me. "Araceli, what do you want from this process?" "I want them to admit what they did. I want Derek to pay for the damages. I want them to leave me alone." "We've done nothing wrong," my mother said immediately. "I have video evidence of Derek deliberately flooding my basement. That video is misleading. Context matters. I have footage of him breaking into my house 6 times. He had a key. He wasn't breaking in. We went in circles." Dr. Chen tried to find common ground, but there was none. My mother refused to admit any wrongdoing. Derek stuck to his story that everything was a misunderstanding. My father remained silent. After 2 hours, Dr. Chen ended the session. I'll submit my report to the court. My recommendation will be that further mediation is unlikely to be productive. You're both too entrenched in your positions. That evening, I noticed my water pressure was dropping. I called a plumber, dreading what he'd find. He found concrete. Someone had poured concrete down my sewer line. The entire line needed to be excavated and replaced. $11,000. I didn't have $11,000. I didn't have $1,100. I took out another personal loan at an even higher interest rate. Now, I had 2 personal loans on top of my mortgage. My monthly debt payments totaled nearly $1,500. My take-home pay was $3,000 a month. I started eating 1 meal a day to save money. I canceled every subscription service. I stopped driving anywhere except work to save on gas. I turned off my AC to save on electricity, sweating through the July heat. My health was falling apart. I developed stress-related symptoms I'd never had before. Panic attacks that came out of nowhere, leaving me gasping and shaking. I couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night. I'd wake up in a panic, convinced someone was in my house. My hair was falling out in clumps. I'd lost 15 pounds in 2 months. My doctor prescribed anti-anxiety medication and sleeping pills. More expenses. She strongly recommended therapy. I couldn't afford it. I went to work, came home, checked my security cameras obsessively, and tried to survive one day at a time. 2 days before Derek's wedding, I received an invitation in the mail. It was elaborately embossed, expensive looking. Inside was a handwritten note from my mother. Despite everything, you're still family. We hope you'll be there to celebrate love and family unity. It's time to put the past behind us and move forward together. Your presence would mean everything to Derek and Amanda. The guilt tripping was obvious. Show up and submit, or be permanently cut off from the family. But I knew what would happen if I went. I'd be expected to smile and play nice while everyone pretended nothing had happened. I'd be expected to give them money, to apologize for defending myself. I threw the invitation in the trash. On Derek's wedding day, I stayed home. I sat in my damaged house, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, and researched bankruptcy attorneys. I was out of options, out of money, out of hope. I'd fought for 2 months, and I'd lost everything anyway. Around 3 in the afternoon, someone knocked on my door. I checked the security camera first, cautious. It was Amanda, in her wedding dress. I opened the door, confused. Amanda? She was crying, mascara running down her face in black streams. Her dress was pristine white, elaborate and beautiful. She looked like she should be walking down an aisle, not standing on my porch in tears. "I can't do it," she said. "I can't marry him." I let her inside. She sat on my couch, and I got her a glass of water. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. "What happened?" "I've known," she said. "I've known everything all along." My stomach dropped. "Known what?" "About your mom's plan, about Derek destroying your house, about all of it." I sat down across from her, suddenly cold despite the summer heat. "Explain." And she did. She told me everything. 6 months ago, my mother had approached Amanda with a scheme. Make Aracelli's life so miserable, she'd sell her house. Once the house was sold, pressure me to invest in Derek and Amanda's future. They'd use my money to buy a bigger house. Derek and Amanda would live there, and my mother would move in with them. She'd have control over everything. Amanda had gone along with it because she was terrified of my mother. Patricia was domineering and manipulative, and Amanda had fallen under her spell. They'd coordinated everything. The flooding, the vandalism, the anonymous tips to my work, the forged loan documents. My mother had worked at a law office years ago and knew how to fabricate official-looking paperwork. The concrete in my sewer line? Derek had done it while Amanda watched. She'd said nothing. The break-in 3 days ago? Derek had hired his friend Tyler to do it while Derek was at his bachelor party, establishing an alibi. My mother had paid Tyler $2,000. Amanda pulled out her phone and showed me everything. Text messages between my mother and Derek planning each attack. Voice recordings of my mother coaching Derek on what to tell the police. Photos Derek had sent Amanda of my damaged house, bragging about what he'd done. Email trails showing my mother had contacted my work with the fake allegations. Bank records showing she'd paid Tyler for the break-in. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "This morning, before the ceremony, I overheard your mom and Derek talking. They were in a back room at the venue, and they didn't know I was nearby. They were laughing, talking about how you were probably packing to leave town by now. Your mom said once you're gone, they'd buy your house at foreclosure for pennies. Derek said you never should have said no to family." Amanda's voice broke. They weren't going to stop. Even after the wedding, even after getting what they wanted, they were planning to keep destroying you until you had nothing left. Your mom's long-term plan was to get your house, rent it out, and use the rental income. They talked about it like it was already theirs. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. I realized I was about to marry into a family of monsters. Derek isn't who I thought he was. Your mother has turned him into someone cruel and vindictive, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand at that altar and promise to spend my life with someone who could do this to his own sister. "So you left?" I walked out. The guests are still there, confused. "My parents are probably furious, but I came here first because you need this evidence. You need to see what they've been doing, and I'll testify to everything. I'll go to court and tell them exactly what happened." I looked at the phone in her hand, at the mountain of evidence she was offering me. Messages, recordings, photos, everything I needed to prove what they'd done. "You'd really testify against Derek? I can't marry someone who could do this. This isn't love. This isn't family. This is cruelty. And I won't be part of it." We spent the next hour going through everything. She sent me copies of all the evidence. Text messages where my mother said things like, "Make sure the damage looks accidental," and "We need her desperate enough to sell." Voice recordings of phone calls where my mother coached Derek on his story for the police. Photos Derek had sent of my flooded basement with captions like Phase 1 complete. It was all there. Every piece of their conspiracy, documented and saved. Then my security camera app pinged. Motion detected at my front door. I pulled up the live feed. My mother and Derek were there, still in their wedding clothes. My mother was picking my lock. "What are they doing?" Amanda whispered. I watched as they got my door open and walked inside. They went straight to my home office. "They're planting evidence," I said, "or looking for documents for their lawsuit." I called 911. "I have intruders in my home. I'm watching them on my security cameras right now. They're going through my personal files." "Are you currently in the house?" "No. I'm nearby." A small lie, but I didn't want to confront them. Amanda and I got in my car. We drove around the block and came back just as 2 police cars pulled up. My mother and Derek were still inside. The officers knocked. No answer. I gave them permission to enter my home. They found my mother and Derek in my office. My mother was going through my file cabinet. Derek was at my computer with a USB drive plugged in. "What are you doing here?" one officer asked. My mother tried to smile. "This is my daughter's house. I was just checking on things." "Does she want you here?" I stepped forward. "Absolutely not. I want to press charges for breaking and entering." Derek pulled the USB drive from my computer and tried to pocket it. "We weren't doing anything wrong." "Sir, I need you to hand over that USB drive." Derek hesitated, then handed it over. The officer examined it. "What's on this?" "Nothing. It's blank." But when they checked my computer, they found spyware half installed. Derek had been trying to install remote access software so they could monitor my files. They were arrested, both of them, handcuffed and put in the back of police cars, while my neighbors watched. My father arrived, just as they were being taken away. He saw my mother in handcuffs, saw me standing with the police, and his face crumpled. "I'm sorry," he said to me quietly. "I should have stopped her years ago." Amanda gave her statement to the police, turned over all the evidence. The officers' expressions grew more serious as they reviewed the messages and recordings. "Miss Rodriguez, this is much bigger than breaking and entering. This is conspiracy, fraud, vandalism, identity theft, multiple felonies." Derek tried to talk his way out of it in the back of the police car, but my mother just stared straight ahead, her face blank. The wedding guests were still at the venue, waiting for a ceremony that would never happen. The police station became my second home over the next few days. I gave statements. I provided evidence. I answered questions. Amanda sat beside me through most of it, still in her wedding dress for the first statement, then in borrowed clothes after that. The prosecutor assigned to the case was a sharp woman named Jennifer Walsh. She reviewed everything and looked at me with something like awe. "Miss Rodriguez, this is one of the most elaborate schemes I've seen. Your family coordinated a months-long campaign to destroy your property and reputation. We're looking at multiple felonies for both your mother and brother." Derek's lawyer tried to negotiate immediately. Derek was willing to take a plea deal: 2 years probation, 600 hours of community service, and full restitution. The total came to $32,000 for all the documented damage to my property. My mother refused to plea. She wanted to fight it in court. Her lawyer argued she'd done nothing wrong, that I was a vindictive daughter making false accusations. But Amanda's testimony was damning, and the evidence she'd provided was irrefutable. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on 6 counts: conspiracy to commit fraud, vandalism, identity theft, filing false reports, harassment, and stalking. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay $20,000 in restitution and cover my legal fees. I sat in that courtroom and watched my mother's face as the sentence was read. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just stared at the judge with cold hatred. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. "I will never forgive you for this." "I know," I said. Derek took his plea deal and avoided prison. But the criminal convictions meant I could move forward with civil cases. I sued them both. With the criminal convictions, the civil lawsuit was straightforward. I won a judgment for $75,000, the exact amount they'd falsely claimed I owed them in their fabricated lawsuit. Their fake loan lawsuit was dismissed immediately. The handwriting expert's testimony proved the signatures were forged. My mother faced additional fraud charges for that. My father came to see me a week after my mother was sentenced. He looked older somehow, smaller. "I'm divorcing her," he said. We were sitting in my living room, which I'd finally been able to repair with Derek's restitution payments. I've spent 30 years under her control. I was too weak to stand up to her, and I let her hurt you. I'm signing over half of our retirement savings to you. It's not enough, but it's what I have. Dad, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I should have protected you. I should have stopped her the first time she went after you. But I was too scared of her to do the right thing. I'm sorry, Araceli. I'm so sorry. We talked for a long time that day. He explained how my mother had always been controlling, but it had gotten worse over the years. How she'd isolated him from friends and family. How she'd made every decision, controlled every dollar, dictated every aspect of their lives. She wanted to control you too, he said. When you bought this house, it was the first time you'd ever done something big without asking her permission. It drove her crazy. She couldn't stand that you'd made a life choice without her input. So she decided to destroy it. Why didn't you warn me? I tried, in my own cowardly way. But I should have done more. I should have been a real father to you. We rebuilt our relationship slowly after that. He started therapy, working on setting boundaries and finding his own voice. It was hard for both of us, but we tried. My work situation improved dramatically once the truth came out. When my employer learned that the false allegations had been part of a criminal conspiracy, they were mortified. They gave me back pay for my unpaid leave and promoted me to senior accountant with a raise. Janet apologized personally. I should have trusted you. I should have investigated more thoroughly before putting you on leave. I'm sorry. The company also implemented new HR procedures to prevent false anonymous allegations from derailing employees' careers. With Derek's restitution money, the civil judgment, and my father's contribution from his retirement savings, I was finally able to recover financially. I paid off both personal loans. I repaired everything in my house and even upgraded some features. I refinanced my mortgage to a better rate. I rebuilt my emergency fund, this time with enough to cover 6 months of expenses. The extended family was divided. Some, like Aunt Susan, apologized profusely and cut ties with my mother entirely. Others believed my mother's version that I'd somehow entrapped her and Derek. I let those relationships go. I didn't have the energy to convince people who didn't want to see the truth. Derek and Amanda never married. She moved to Colorado and started over. She sent me a letter 6 months after everything ended. Thank you for helping me see who I was becoming. I was so desperate to fit into a family that I lost myself. I watched Derek do terrible things and said nothing. I'm ashamed of that. I hope you can forgive me someday. I hope you find peace. I wrote back, telling her I understood. She'd been manipulated too, in her own way. I hoped she found happiness. Derek's life fell apart. He lost his job after the conviction. No reputable company wanted to hire someone with a criminal record for fraud and vandalism. He ended up working a series of low-wage jobs, barely making ends meet. His reputation in our community was destroyed. People knew what he'd done. He tried to reach out once, a year after everything ended. He sent me an email. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. Mom convinced me you were the villain, that you were selfish and cruel, that you deserved it. But I know now that I was wrong. I destroyed my own life by going along with her schemes. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I understand if you never want to hear from me again. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I'd be ready to forgive him, but that day hadn't come yet. A year after my mother was sentenced, I was thriving. I'd been promoted again at work, this time to accounting manager. I was dating a kind man named Marcus, who taught high school history and treated me with respect. I'd finished renovating my house, turning it from a crime scene into a true home. I'd also started therapy, working through the trauma of what my family had done. My therapist helped me understand that their actions weren't about me. They were about control, about my mother's pathological need to dominate everyone around her. You didn't cause this, my therapist said. You buying a house didn't make them attack you. They attacked you because you'd done something independent, something they couldn't control. And they couldn't tolerate that. It helped, hearing that. Understanding that no matter what I'd done, my mother would have found a reason to punish me for not obeying her. On the anniversary of buying my house, I threw a party, just a small gathering. My father came, Aunt Susan and Uncle George came, a few friends from work. Marcus was there, helping me grill burgers in my backyard. I stood on my back deck, looking at my house, my guests, my life, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. My mother was released from prison after serving 14 months. I heard about it through my father. She moved in with a cousin in another state and never contacted me. My father's divorce was finalized while she was still incarcerated. Derek tried to rebuild his life. He got a job as a warehouse supervisor and enrolled in community college, trying to finish the degree he'd abandoned years ago. He stayed away from me, honoring the permanent restraining order the court had granted. I sometimes wondered if he'd really changed or if he was just scared of going to prison. Maybe it didn't matter. He was out of my life, and I was better for it. 2 years after everything ended, I was sitting on my front porch on a summer evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My house looked beautiful. I'd repainted it a soft blue-gray. I'd landscaped the front yard with native plants that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds. The garden was thriving. Marcus was inside, cooking dinner. We'd moved in together 6 months ago. He understood what I'd been through and never pushed me to reconcile with my family. He supported my boundaries and celebrated my strength. My father came over every Sunday for dinner now. We were building something new, a relationship based on honesty instead of fear. He'd become a different person after leaving my mother. Lighter, more himself. I'd learned so much in those 2 years. I'd learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you will hurt you the most. I'd learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who protects you, who celebrates your success instead of resenting it. I'd learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's survival. I'd learned that some people will try to destroy you just for being independent, for making choices they can't control. And that when that happens, you have every right to fight back. Most importantly, I'd learned that home isn't just a building. Home is peace. Home is safety. Home is knowing you fought for something and won. I bought this house with my own money, my own work, my own dreams. My family tried to take it from me. They tried to break me, to force me into submission, to destroy everything I'd built. But I'm still here, still standing in my home, on my porch, living my life on my terms. They're the ones who face consequences. My mother in prison, then exile. Derek with a criminal record and a destroyed reputation. They lost everything by trying to take what was mine. And I learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to let others destroy you. Sometimes you have to cut out the people who hurt you, even if they're family, especially if they're family. I learned that toxic people will justify anything. They'll twist reality, gaslight you, make you doubt your own memories and sanity. They'll recruit others to their cause, turning your family into an army against you. But truth has a way of coming out. Evil has a way of exposing itself. And justice, when it finally comes, is sweet. I thought about Amanda sometimes, wondered how she was doing in Colorado. She'd done the right thing in the end. She'd walked away from a wedding, from a life she'd planned, because she couldn't be part of something so cruel. That took courage. I thought about all the people who'd believed my mother's lies, who'd looked at me like I was the villain in this story. Some of them apologized later. Some never did. I'd made peace with both outcomes. You can't control what others believe about you. You can only live your truth and let the evidence speak for itself. My house was worth more now than when I'd bought it. The market had gone up, and my renovations had added value. But I wasn't selling. This house wasn't just an investment. It was a symbol of everything I'd survived. Every room told a story. The basement I'd restored after Derek flooded it. The living room I'd repaired after the break-in. The office where I'd caught my mother red-handed, trying to plant evidence. But those were old stories. Now the house was full of new memories. Dinners with Marcus and my dad, game nights with friends, quiet Sunday mornings with coffee and sunshine. I'd turned a crime scene into a sanctuary. Marcus came out onto the porch, handing me a glass of iced tea. Dinner's almost ready. Thanks. I took the glass, and he sat beside me. What are you thinking about? How far I've come. How different my life is now compared to 2 years ago. You're amazing, you know that? What you went through, what you survived. Most people would have broken. I almost did break. There were moments I wanted to give up, to just sell the house and run away. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Because they didn't deserve to win. Because this house was mine, and I'd earned it. And I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. He put his arm around me. I'm glad you fought. I'm glad you're here. Me too. We sat there as the sun finished setting, my house glowing in the twilight behind us. My home, my sanctuary, my hard-won victory. I'd bought this house 3 years ago with hope and excitement, never imagining the battle I'd have to fight to keep it, never imagining my own family would become my enemies. But I'd won. Not just legally, not just financially. I'd won emotionally and spiritually. I'd reclaimed my peace, my power, my life. And sitting there on my porch with Marcus beside me, my father coming over for dinner, my home restored and beautiful, I felt something profound. Gratitude. I was grateful for my strength, grateful for the people who'd stood by me, grateful for Amanda's courage in telling the truth, grateful for the justice system that had worked, for once, in favor of the victim. I was even grateful, in a strange way, for the battle itself, because it had shown me who I really was, what I was capable of, how strong I could be when I had no choice but to be strong. My family tried to destroy me. They failed. And in failing, they destroyed themselves. I survived. I thrived. I won. And I learned the most important lesson of all. Some people, even family, will try to take what's yours. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Toxic people will destroy you if you let them. But when you fight back, when you refuse to be a victim, when you demand justice, you reclaim your power. Home isn't just wood and walls. Home is peace. It's safety. It's knowing you fought for something and won. It's knowing you're strong enough to protect what's yours. This house is mine. This life is mine. And no one will ever take that from me again. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Have you ever had people, maybe even family, try to take away what you'd worked so hard to build? How did you handle it? Did you stand your ground or walk away? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else who's going through something similar right now. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel something or taught you something, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories about real people fighting real battles and coming out stronger on the other side. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with toxic family members. Someone who's being told they're selfish for having boundaries. Someone who needs to know that fighting for yourself is not only okay, it's necessary. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was long, and I know it was heavy at times, but I wanted you to understand the full journey, from the first attack to the final victory. Because that's real life. Real battles aren't won in a day. They're won through persistence, through courage, through refusing to give up even when everything seems hopeless. I hope my story gives you strength for whatever battles you're facing. Remember, you deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve to protect what's yours. And anyone who tries to take that from you deserves to face the consequences. Stay strong. Set boundaries. Fight for yourself. And never, ever let anyone make you feel guilty for putting yourself first. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.